You have your new single out now, Take a Little Love. What inspired this?
Well, it was actually Take a Little Love was a song that originated with a friend of mine called James Stevenson, and he had the idea of this song, and he only had a little part of the chorus, and I took it away and worked on it, and worked on the verses and the lyrics, and put the middle section in. He had the line "Take a Little Love," and which was as I went along with it, it grew on me, And I guess at the time, I remember the the place I was writing it in, the room I wrote it in. I wondered if I'd taken it away from the simplicity of that first chorus, but now I like the sort of the contrast between the sort of heavier verses and the lighter choruses, And I imagine it's, we all, struggling through this path of life that offers its challenges. I remember I was reading a book at the time called The Sphinx and the Time Clock, and I thought the idea of a time clock was a strange thing because I just think of a clock and putting times and clocks together. Um, Sort of hit me on my funny bunch. It was a mix of things I was feeling, little bits I was reading here and there, and I think it's a lot of the imagery is sort of being you set apart in time from someone, and I think there's a line about we reach these islands, and it's sort of there's a lot of sea imagery in there, which I guess is maybe the emotions. I seem to feel water as what goes on with us, emotion. You see, so I imagine those things were percolating, filtering through my, conscious, subconscious, and they came out in the way they came out. And it seemed to work with James' original idea and rolls along. It was good. It was good when we recorded it because we recorded it at the end of a session where it was the first session of the recording for the album at James Halliwell's studio, and he brought Jeremy and Paul Stacey, these identical twin brothers. One plays drums, one played guitar, and then my friend Charlie Jones played bass. And we all kind of knew each other, but really, I hadn't met Jeremy and Paul until that day. So everyone was getting to know each other, and we'd recorded a couple of songs that were slated in as, songs that we were going to. I think we worked on Runaway that day. I think the day before we'd worked on Chains, and we had a bit more time. And I literally said, "Well, I've got this song, and it's only got 3 chords, and maybe we could try that if we've got time." So it was more of an afterthought, throwing it into the mix, and they just went at it, And I think we just tracked bass, drums, and guitar and organ, and then Paul played electric, and then I think he overdubbed some lead lines, and then that was it. That was it. And then we had all the overdubs on the day. And then James knew a great backing singer called Louise Marshall that sings with Jules Holland. And he'd worked on her with some stuff. And she was singing with Dave Gilmour at the time. And he said, "Well, she's my friend. Maybe I should get her down." And she added some beautiful backing vocals. So it came together. It had a nice energy the way it came together in the recording.
Well, I'm sure the fans have been reaching out to you and telling you all kinds of wonderful feedback. What have they been saying to you for this beautiful song?
Well, I've been getting some nice comments on social media, Facebook and Instagram, and I was able to do a video content that Anna Gabriel put together just in the last just this month actually. We had tried a video before which we'd forgotten about and remembered that we'd done some work on that track, and then we had some other visual stuff lying around on the floor that we put together, and some animation, and people really responded to the video and the song, and it was nice to to finally get it out there so I could share it and feel what people would respond to the track, Yeah, it was great.
Well, do you have a typical writing process when it comes to songwriting? Do you tend to have, as you mentioned, a little bit of a hand with someone else to bounce things off of when you're creating a song, or is this do you even have a typical process, or does it go song to song, whatever flows from you?
No, I don't think I do have much of a typical process. I mean, I might sit down with a guitar and get things started like I did the other day. And I'm thinking about that tune more and more now as the week goes on. But, a melody might pop out of anywhere like it did the other. I was actually sitting down with a guitar and just channeling what might come through. Other times a melody will come into my head and I won't even notice it for a while. And then I'll go, I'm still hearing that like wild wolves. I remember I was at an underground tube station and just sung that melody, da, 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 and I didn't know what it was. And I just thought you should record that into your phone. And then it wouldn't leave me alone. I got the chorus, but just walking around the street. So that's not anything to do with sitting at a piano or a guitar. Like Time Bomb, I got working on the piano. And in terms of writing with other people, I don't necessarily seek out writing with other people, but I do. I like writing with friends that are just obviously great musicians, but we've got a friendship. Like me and James was hanging out quite a bit when that happened, and a friend of mine, George Jessica, we used to play a lot of gigs together around Portobello Road. He's a guitar player and good all round, a really good singer songwriter, and he's now in Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. I remember we were in the flat I had at the time, and he just started playing this line on the guitar, and we both went, "What is this?" And I started singing over it, and that became a track called Chains. And then the last track, News Against the Sky, was something that I worked on with James Hallowell at the studio. We were vamping around on this little 2 chord thing, jamming, and I went back to New York and wrote this poem. And somehow thought those two things might connect. And when I got back to the studio, I said, "Yeah, I've got this. Let me read this." And he got a little SM58 mic on it, and I just sung this thing over it. And then he went, "Wait a second, let's set this up properly, and I'll get on the piano, you get on the guitar." So they were tracks that were all, because Leaves Against the Sky, it would have been lyrics first, you see. But the rest of the tracks I write on my own, and I can get songs on my own, no problem really. I mean, they might take a moment. In fact, Chains with George took much more of a moment, because I don't know if he's even heard it, because to the lyrics took such a time to sort of get. It was just a melody idea, but I really worked hard on the lyrics of that song, which can, I don't know, it's very difficult to try and say it's not going to be as you imagine it's going to be. It's a bit like having a woman having a baby. They've got their due date and they think that's what it's going to be, and then it's 2 weeks later, and then they have the second child. Think, oh, babies are going to be later, and then this one comes really early. It's just, and then you think you're going to have I don't know. It's just you're birthing something, and it's going to let you know when it's ready to happen. You can't sort of say, well, I just sit down and do this, and Bob's your uncle, Eureka Geronimo. It turns up the way I expect it's going to turn up, because it doesn't. My experience is you have to give yourself over to it and be its sort of vessel or instrument, rather than its sort of rather than being the sort of the conductor that controls the whole experience.
Well, you have a wonderful new album on the way, Time Bomb. Are you able to talk about some of the themes you'll be exploring on this?
Well, I mean, it made me think when I answered your first question about the time clock in the Take a Little Love song. And then there's images of time and clocks in the first song, Time Bomb. Um, the second song, Bring Back the Freaks, is someone who's struggling, wrestling with feeling kind of out of time, or at the times he's living in this, he seems to be sort of submerged, um, not sort of surfacing in the world around him. Chains is, that seems quite a dark sort of um, ragged sort of landscape that that's written in, things you can become chained to, and also things that are positive that keep you connected to something important that could be a chain as well. Um, and then there's a breaking open and take a little love, which is more positive. And then this themes sort of come out again, like Runaway is a story of someone, a character who's had great triumphs in his past, and he's trying to find his way back. So he's sort of set as a, you know, he used the image of a boxer in that song. And then there's sort of romance, which a lot of us live our lives in this dream self world that we're in, which is sort of unrelated to time, but somehow mixes into it all. And you know, there's Avenue Walk, The Kiss, Wild Wars. They deal with those themes, and then there's a song Crazy Rain, which is more childlike in its melody, but it seems sort of anchored in the more adult world. Um, Rusty Cans, Dusty Alleys, that's more about the way the world can help you lose that side of you that's precious, I imagine, and losing what's in crazy, and sort of, you know, what you have to do to survive in this, in with all the pushes and pulls of this world. And then it changes, I think, at the end with Cry with No Tears and Leaves Against the Sky. I really feel them, those two songs kind of very personally. And there were songs I wrote uh, dealing with the bereavement of my father when I lost my dad. And Cry with No Tears is very literally about that. And then Leaves Against the Sky is more, like I said, I got that poem like a year after he'd passed. And it's dealing with it in a more abstract way. But it was nice to get him in the album somewhere because he was a big influence on my life. And it was a good way to finish it off because it felt more personal to me, you know.
Sounds like it's an all-around heart-filled album, which must mean so much to you. Are you able to tease when we can expect the album to come out, or am I twisting your arm too much?
Yeah, it's actually coming out very soon. It's coming out on the 17th of February, so it's gonna be available then. Um, I'm making some CDs for a gig that I'm playing at the Bitter End in New York on the 3rd of March, and then I'm playing in South by Southwest um, on the 10th for the Fast Company, which is part of I think the Film and Media Week. The Fast Company are a media company, and they kindly asked me to play their show on the 10th of March, and then I'm playing the Rocky Road booking agent stage on the 15th. I don't have a venue for that, but that's will be coming to me shortly. And so I will have some CDs for that. But I'm in London at the moment, and I just was talking to some friends who work in music and in the business, and they're trying to talk about a physical release in the UK in the summer, maybe in July. I'd have to see whether that would entail vinyl or CDs. I would certainly CDs, perhaps vinyl, and that will be hopefully accompanied by some dates and again some coverage in the United Kingdom. Um, so yeah, it's exciting. I was a bit apprehensive at the end of last year, wondering if I had it all ready, and I knew the music was ready, but wondering if there were more pieces of the puzzle that I had to put together. But once we did the artwork and once I mastered the record, I did get a sense of real excitement that this is now happening, and so yeah, really excited to share it with people who've been supporting the music for so long now.
I was going to ask you, we'll get to that though, about the wonderful fans that you have. And you mentioned you have some collab work you've done on the album. Do you have a dream collab that you'd have in mind for someday?
Um, well, I mean, there's so many wonderful artists out there. You know, um, I even have some friends that are just, I think, are stunningly great musicians and players. Like there's a guy in New York called James Maddock who I really go and watch play live. I think he's fantastic. Um, you can go into the 11th Street bar in New York and see someone like Nora Jones perform, and just in a bar. And when I know some of the people that play in her band, I mean, I just love her voice and what she's done over the years. And and there's lots of female, male artists. So I'd definitely like to. I've not actually tried anything in the two-voice duet writing a song in that space. I wouldn't know what challenges that might present, but it would be fun to see what that might bring out. I'd certainly be looking to collaborate with people in America and over here too in the UK.
You're going to be headed out, you said, for some tour dates. Is there a favorite place you enjoy performing the most, or do you enjoy just the absolute pleasure it is to perform?
Well, I was very lucky last year. I had an opportunity to do a bunch of dates actually around the UK and play some places. Well, I may have played before, but certainly not for a while. Um, and I really enjoyed playing in Sheffield, a place called the Dorothy Pax in Sheffield in England, and Liverpool too. And it was great because there was I played in Manchester as well, and there was some people who hadn't seen me for many years and had seen me before. In fact, I was opening up for Steve Wickham, who's the violin player in the Waterboys, and he's got his own great records out at the moment. And one of his fans had seen me play, but not for a while, didn't know I was going to be on the night. So it's great that there are people out there that recognize the music, and have the record that I put out before. It's great meeting up with them. And obviously, I just love playing in New York. I think the reason why I went there was because there's so many great musicians in the city. There's so many great places to play. Obviously, there's great big places, but even small venues in New York really have their act together. And like I say, there's some great players, and if one of them is busy out on tour, there's someone else that can take their place and join. And it's a real great community there. So I always love playing New York and around New York as well. I played in LA at the Hotel Cafe last year as well, which was really good fun because I hadn't played there for a while, and I was really surprised that a lot of friends and people I hadn't seen for a while came out. I had a good feeling playing there. Yeah.
Well, what would you like to say then to everyone who are fans and supporters of the beautiful music that you make?
Well, I'd like to thank them from the bottom of my heart for sticking with me for all this time and waiting to hear the new music. Someone messaged me today saying it was great news that the album was coming out because they hadn't seen me play for years, and they mentioned a gig that I'd have to really think where that was. So I hope it joins up the dots for people that I haven't seen for a while, and I get to see them and play in a town near them soon somewhere, and we get to enjoy the music together, hang out after the show, and you know create more memories for me and for themselves as well.